Welcome to this episode of the Harpreet Singh Show. I'm your host Harpreet Singh from Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. In today's program, we're going to take you over to Portland, and my guest is a world-renowned sitar player, Josh Feinberg. So we'll be talking to him about his journey, and especially he's coming to Surrey on May the 13th. So we'll talk in details about the programs that he's organizing over here. So let's get over to him and continue with the discussion. Josh, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Namaskar. Thank you so much for having me.
Namaskar. Thank you. It's a pleasure and honor to have you. Reading about you, it kind of had goosebumps as to the kind of accomplishments that you have had in the field of Indian classical music. So,
Well,
for our
thank you so
viewers
much.
today, if you could tell us, how did you get inspired towards Indian classical music?
So, I grew up in New York City. I grew up playing Western classical and jazz with piano and bass. And then one of my jazz instructors, who is now a very well-known jazz drummer, his name's Dan Weiss, he was learning tabla and he introduced me to Indian classical music. And it was really the music of Pandit Nikhil Banerjee and Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, who their music really touched me and changed my life, really.
You belong to a family of musicians, and at age 4, you had started playing. Telling you to, you got inspired by something. But what was that thing that attracted you towards sitar? There are many other classical, things which can be played, but why sitar only?
So, yeah, my both my parents learned music. My mother learned guitar when she was young, and my dad played trumpet. And my dad in particular, is a very passionate music lover. I remember being a kid in the car. If a symphony would come on, he could just sing, you know, uh, most of it. And all of my brothers and sisters, we learned music at some point as well. Um, so this music for me, Hindustani music, it has everything that music can be. It's uh, it's complex, it's intellectual, it's deep and spiritual, it's emotional, it's improvisational, it's interactive, it's exciting. So it has everything that music can be. And I just totally fell in love with it, and I love the culture and the tradition behind the music. Um, I love the sound of the instrument. It really just kind of nourishes my soul, and I feel like even though this is an ancient art form with history stretching back hundreds or thousands of years, I feel like it's just as relevant today as it has ever been. And just like um, just like a forest growing outwards, it's the edge that is moving into new territory. And that's what, present generations are. We have the past masters who are, amazing. And, for the last 100 years, we have their recordings. But musicians such as myself, now we are that growing edge.
Right. So, Josh, what was the response from your parents when you said that, no, I want to shift to the Indian classical system from the Western music?
They were very supportive. There was never any pushback, or it was quite easy. My mother is she's always been quite interested in yoga. She's a practitioner of Ashtanga yoga for the last 40 years, I think, 30,
Right.
40 years. So and both my parents, they've always been very supportive of me being a musician and then shifting to sitar, when
Right.
I was
So it was an easy transition for you. And so once you thought that, yes, I'm going to be a follower of Indian classical music. So where did you start getting your training from?
Dan Weiss was my first. I would consider him my first Indian music teacher because he started teaching me about the music itself, how to listen to it, the rhythmic devices that were going on, such as tihai, things like that. Um, my first melodic teacher was Warren Senders, who is in Boston. He's a phenomenal teacher of Hindustani vocal. And so he was my first rag teacher. I think I was 18 at that time. I was attending New England Conservatory. And then his wife was my first sitar teacher. Her name is Vijaya Sundaram. And I learned with her briefly, I would say maybe 6, 7, 8 lessons, something like that. And then I shifted to Dr. Peter Rowe, who was a longtime friend of Pandit Nikhil Banerjee. And he was actually the dean of New England Conservatory when I was there. And so I was attending the college that he was teaching in, so it was a logical transition. And I was very blessed to learn with him. He was very open with me with his training. He learned with Pandit Gokul Nag, who is the father and guru of Pandit Motilal Nag in Calcutta.
Right.
And he shared with me the techniques and the kind of the foundation of sitar playing. And then at that point, after a few years there, I had a very uncommon upbringing musically in this tradition, because I was so hungry as a musician that my teachers would give me a lesson, and after a few days, I wanted more. I needed more material.
Okay.
And so I actually was learning with 3 people at once, which is very uncommon in this tradition. I was learning with Warren Sanders, Dr. Peter Rowe, and then I was also learning with Dr. George Ruckert, who is a disciple of Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab. And it was Dr. Ruckert who introduced me to Khan Sahab. So when I was probably about 20, I would say, I started spending my summers. I was in college and I was studying with these amazing teachers. And then when I had the summer off of school, then I would fly to California and I would spend the summer learning with Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab and with his senior disciple James Pomerantz, and then I began learning with his son, Khan Sahab's son, Alam Khan. So that was my initiation. And since then, I've been learning with, I learned with Khan Sahab until he passed. And then I learned with Ustad Ashish Khan Sahab, who's his oldest son. I also learned with Shri Anindya Banerjee, who is his senior disciple. And since, for the last 10 years or so, I've been continuing to learn with Alam Dada, and also with Pandit Tejendra Majumdarji, who is Ali Akbar Khan Sahab's senior disciple.
Okay. So still that learning is going on, but you were lucky to get all this training staying in the States only. You didn't have to go to India and stay over there and learn?
So I did go to India, actually. I lived in India for 1 year on a Fulbright scholarship. And that was in 2006. And ever since then, I've been going back to India for a few months every year, virtually every year.
Okay.
But, we live in a global society now, and so much is available, especially for the last 10 years or so. So I would say I did the bulk of my training here, but I did lots of training in India as well.
Excellent. Josh, it's time for a short break. We'll go for a break and we'll be shortly back and learn more from you, and I'll also translate what you have said. So we'll be shortly back and we'll continue with the discussion.
ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਰੀ, ਡੈਲਟਾ, ਰਿਚਮੰਡ, ਐਬਸਫੋਰਡ ਜਾਂ ਵੈਂਕੂਵਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਵਾਂ ਘਰ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਬਾਰੇ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਰੈਨੋਵੇਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ? ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਤਜਰਬੇਕਾਰ ਬਿਲਡਰ, ਇੱਕ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿਵ ਇੰਟੀਰੀਅਰ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਰ ਦੀ, ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਹੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗਾਈਡ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਉਸਾਰ ਸਕਣ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜਾਂ ਸੰਦੀਪ 6048259295 ਉੱਤੇ।
ਹਰ ਰੰਗ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋ, ਹਰ ਮਾਡਲ, ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਵੱਖਰੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ। ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਹਾਂ, ਸਾਡਾ ਕਰਮ ਹੈ ਅੱਗੇ ਵਧਾਉਣਾ, ਸਫ਼ਰ ਨੂੰ ਸੌਖਾ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ। ਬਸੰਤ ਮੋਟਰਸ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕਰਕੇ।
है जुल्म ढाने का अंदाज भी कितना हंसी, हमारी जान पर बनाई है जब जब उसने अंगड़ाई ली। कभी खामोश रहते हैं, कभी शोर होता है, मोहब्बत में शरारत का मजा कुछ और होता है। दिल को जज्बात का तोहफा खामोशियों को बात का तोहफा, खूबसूरती में जड़ी नजाकत अदाओं की चांद से मुखड़े को चांद सा तोहफा।
भारत ज्वेलर्स, सच्चे प्यार की चमक जैसा। हाई बिजनेस सेंटर सरी।
Once again, welcome back to the program. ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਨੇ ਜੋਸ਼ ਫਾਈਨਬਰਗ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਨੇ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਸਿਤਾਰਿਸਟ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ 4 ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਉਮਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਇੰਸਟਰੂਮੈਂਟਸ ਪਲੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਾਤਾ ਜੀ ਤੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀ ਦੋਨੋਂ ਹੀ ਮਿਊਜ਼ੀਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਸਨ ਅਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਇੰਡੀਅਨ ਕਲਾਸੀਕਲ ਮਿਊਜ਼ਿਕ ਵੱਲ ਪਿਆ, ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿ ਕੋਈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਔਖਿਆਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਦੋਨੋਂ ਹੀ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਨ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਸਨ। ਅਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਮਾਹਰਾਂ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਜੋ ਹੈ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਲਈ, ਅਤੇ ਸਟੇਟਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਅਤੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਅਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਜੋਸ਼ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੜਾ ਹੀ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਹੁਣੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਣੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਸਿਤਾਰਿਸਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮਸ ਵੀ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜ਼ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੁੜ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। So Josh, like you mentioned that you were getting training in States also, and you went to India also. So how were you accepted as a foreigner, and was language a barrier in the learning process in India?
Not as much. English is very widely spoken in India, and when I was in Calcutta, I was learning Bengali. I was actually I knew enough to carry on a conversation.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I was fluent or anything, but I could
Communicate.
get my meaning across, and I got to a point where I could understand 75% of what was being said around me. So if musicians were sharing stories and whatnot, I could understand. And now, when I go back to Calcutta, it takes me about maybe 5 days, 6 days, and then I kind of start remembering everything.
Right.
But India is a huge country with lots of languages, and even though I picked up a bit of Bangla, that doesn't help me anywhere else really outside of Bengal.
Right.
So that's quite an obstacle, I would say, for all Indian musicians, is that even if you're Bengali, and you go to Mumbai, Marathi is quite different. So, or if you go to the Punjab, Punjabi is quite different. And so, everybody, in the music scene, I would say for the most part speaks English. And so, it wasn't an opportunity or an obstacle to learning at all. And we could always communicate with music. Music is its own language, and
Right.
We could do that. I would say being accepted as a foreigner, it's a mixed bag. Some people are very accepting. People who know the music, who are I would say the diehard music lovers, the rasikas, the connoisseurs, they know me and they love me. But I would say it's definitely an uphill battle. There are lots of people who they want to receive their music from an Indian artist, and I see that quite a lot in the West. That oftentimes, there are big concerts that go to kind of amateur artists. Just because the organizers want to present an Indian, and they don't really know what's going on with the music itself.
Right.
So it's a mixed bag,
Okay, but you surmounted that, and today you are a well-known authority in the field of playing sitar. So, Josh, if you can tell us the kind of challenges that you went through. Sitar is not an easy instrument, it is quite difficult. But your persistence and your love for this special, instrument led you to where you are today. But initially, what kind of challenges you went through, and how did you surmount them?
No, it's easy. I could teach you in 20 minutes.
Okay.
It'd be great.
Right.
No, it's quite a difficult instrument. It takes lots of practice and dedication. Really, what's required is a dedicated training period, where I would say for 10 years, you just eat, sleep, and breathe music. You don't do anything else. Just listening and studying and reading and practicing, attending concerts and practicing with musicians. And you need at least, I would say, 10 to 15 years of this kind of intense training period. For me, it was a labor of love. I love this music. I love playing this music. I love practicing. I love sharing. I love teaching, for the most part. And I love performing and touring. And so, I've sacrificed a lot in my life, but it's all for the love of music. And it's been a very rewarding journey, but as you said, like, there are lots of obstacles, and I did have to struggle a lot. And so I'm very pleased that my career is coming to this new stage, and that I'm just so happy that I can, live my life playing music.
Excellent. You're a student of Maihar Gharana. What is that?
The Maihar Gharana was founded by Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahib. Alauddin Khan Sahib is the father and the guru of Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahib, Pandit Ravi Shankar ji, Pandit Nikhil Banerjee, Pandit Panalal Ghosh ji, many amazing musicians. And so the Maihar was the town that Alauddin Khan Sahib lived in Madhya Pradesh. He was the court musician. They're one of the last court musicians before the Nawabs were kind of disbanded with Indian independence. And so the Maihar Gharana was kind of founded by Alauddin Khan Sahib because he was so knowledgeable and had such a unique conception of music. It was a very universalist, actually. He learned, they say he learned 200 instruments, and he was a fantastic violin player. He learned Western music as well. A lot of people don't realize that he actually learned Western music. And you can hear his Western musical influence, not only in his playing, but in the playing of his disciples. There are, even reaching back 80 years into the playing of Panditji Ravi Shankarji, Nikhil Banerjee, Pandit Nikhil Banerjee, and Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahib. If you listen to their playing, you can hear chords, you can hear arpeggios, you can hear harmonic motion, and I think this is a influence from Alauddin Khan Sahib's training in Western music. And so a gharana, just to circle back to this question, gharana is a term that we use in the musical world for a school of performance, a style. Right. And Maihar is very unique, actually, in the world of Hindustani classical music, because it's the only gharana where there are multiple instruments present. Usually you'll have like a tabla gharana or a vocal gharana or a sitar gharana. This one we have flute, sitar, sarod. There are vocalists in the Maihar gharana. There's so many musicians, and this is because Alauddin Khan Sahib learned so many instruments and had such a kind of holistic conception of music and the tradition.
Great. Interesting to know. Again, it's time for a short break, and we just come back after the short break, and in the last segment, we'll learn a little bit more about you and also about the special performance that you're going to have in Surrey when you are here on May the 13th. We'll talk all about this after a short while.
ਘਰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸੁਨਹਿਰੀ ਪਲ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਦ ਕਿਸੇ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਜੇ ਹੋਏ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਬਦਲਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਨਵੇਂ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਰੇਮਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ਿੰਗ ਤੱਕ, ਡ੍ਰੇਪਰੀ, ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗਸ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਡੈਕੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ, ਅਸੈਸਰੀਜ਼ ਤੱਕ ਤੁਸੀਂ SK ਹੋਮ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁਪਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਹਕੀਕਤ 'ਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ ਸੰਦੀਪ ਕੌਰ 6048259295।
ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸਮੈਨ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕੀ ਵਜ੍ਹਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ? ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਦੇ ਓਨਰ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇੰਟੈਲੀਜੈਂਸ ਦਾ ਉਦਾਹਰਨ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਾਰ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਖ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਸਰੀ ਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲੋੜ ਦੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜੀਂਦੇ ਟਰੱਕਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਗਾਈਡੈਂਸ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸਪੇਸ, ਮੋਡੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਫਿਊਲ ਐਫੀਸ਼ੀਐਂਸੀ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਧਿਆਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਟਰੱਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਟੌਰ।
ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ AMC ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ ਦੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਨਾਲ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੈਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਹੋਮ, ਆਟੋ, ਲਾਈਫ, ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਜਾਂ ਰਿਕ੍ਰੀਏਸ਼ਨਲ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ, ਤਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ 9 ਬ੍ਰਾਂਚਸ ਨੇ ਲੋਅਰ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਰਵ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਹਫਤੇ ਦੇ 7 ਦਿਨ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। 8:30 ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਰਾਤ ਦੇ 9 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਕਿਸੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਵੀ ਕਾਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ 6045076666। ਸਾਡੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗੀ ਹਨ ਅਗਨੀਹੋਤਰੀ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੰਸਲਟਿੰਗ। ਟੈਂਪਰਰੀ ਸਟੇਟਸ PR, ਨਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ, ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀ ਹੋ, ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਣੀ ਹੈ, ਹਾਇਰ ਕਰਨੇ ਫੋਰਨ ਵਰਕਰਸ ਜਾਂ ਸਪਾਂਸਰ ਕਰਨੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਜਾਂ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਨੀਰਾ ਅਗਨੀਹੋਤਰੀ, ਜੋ ਕਿ 2006 ਤੋਂ ਸਰਟੀਫਾਈਡ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੰਸਲਟੈਂਟ ਵਜੋਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਫॉर ऑनेस्ट एंड रिलायबल इन्फॉर्मेशन कॉल 6045972284 604-597-2284। ਅੱਜ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬੜਾ ਮਾਣ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋਸ਼ ਫਾਈਨਬਰਗ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਪੱਧਰ ਤੇ ਸਿਤਾਰ ਪਲੇਅਰ ਨੇ, ਉਹ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜੋਸ਼ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚੈਲੰਜਸ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇਹ ਲੰਘੇ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਵੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਲਈ, ਅਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮਹਾਰ ਘਰਾਨਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕੋ ਚੀਜ਼ 'ਤੇ ਹੀ ਕੰਸਨਟਰੇਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦਾ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਰੋਦ, ਹੋਰ ਪਲੇਅਰਸ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੰਸਟਰੂਮੈਂਟਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਪਲੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਵੋਕਲਿਸਟ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਅਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੜਾ ਮਾਣ ਹੈ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਲਗਾਵ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਸ ਘਰਾਨੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਲਾਸਟ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਰ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੋਸ਼ ਫਾਈਨਬਰਗ ਤੋਂ। So Josh, like you were telling about this gharana and you are fully attached with it and you love this, your passion for Indian Hindustani classical music is well evident. You've had the opportunity to play with the world's best players, and now that you are fully engrossed in this field, what is so special about the Hindustani classical music that has brought you to this stage today?
To me, Hindustani music is one of the world's greatest art forms. It's one of definitely one of the world's most remarkable musical traditions. The ornamentation, the discipline, the detail, it's exquisite, and I think it's also quite demanding. You know, I love a challenge, and you know, if you're a Western musician, for example, you can be only a virtuoso. You can be a composer. You can be a accompanist, a section musician. You know, you can be. You don't have to do everything all at once. In this music, you have to do everything. You know, you have to be an improviser. You have to be a composer. You have to be a performer. You know, you don't have to be a performer to be a Western musician. You can, you know, there are lots of people who make music on their computer and they sculpt it and then they present it to the world, you know, like a recording musician or a producer. In this music, we're required to do everything. And so it's quite difficult, but the challenge is beautiful to me. And through that path, not only is it amazingly gratifying, but it teaches us a lot about ourselves. You know, studying this music, learning this music, interacting with musicians, it's made me a much better person. It's made me a more compassionate and aware person. You know, I want to share this tradition with the world however I can in my humble way, because I feel like it needs more recognition. It needs more. It's more deserving of a place in the cultural zeitgeist than it currently receives.
And do you believe that, Josh, the Indian community is giving that much recognition to the Indian classical system that it should give, or something more needs to be done?
I think it should be more embraced, more encouraged across the world. I can't speak specifically to the Indian community. I don't know if that's my place, but you know, first and foremost, I'm a citizen of the world, and I want this music. I think the fact that this music touches people from outside of India, from outside of the culture, so deeply is a sign that this music speaks to a universal truth.
Very true.
That
And it transcends all boundaries and touches the soul. There is no doubt about it. You are an instructor also,
Exactly.
and you are an instructor, and you have also written a book, Sitar Method book, also, which is
That's right.
you know, recognized all over the world. So now, tell us a little bit about some of your albums. You have also come out with albums. How have they been received, and what are your future plans?
Yeah, so I think I've recorded 4 solo albums at this point, in addition to recording on other people's projects as well. Um, I recorded my first album with Pandit Sopan Chaudhry, amazing, like legendary maestro of tabla, and it's like such a it still kind of boggles my mind that that I was able to work with him. So that was my first album. I think it was released 8 years ago. I got a grant to fund that, and the grant that I got required that I spend all the money within 6 months. So I actually had to record 2 albums in 6 months to use all the money. So I recorded a second album at the same time with Pandit Untitled Chatterjee, another like legendary, amazing tabla player, and it was just kind of mind-boggling that I got to record with these 2 legendary musicians in such a short span of time. And then I went on to record another album. I think the third one was One Evening in Spring. And that was also with Pandit Untitled Chatterjee. Those were released some years ago, and the response has been really wonderful. And then my last album, which was actually released during the pandemic, which is entitled Time Does Not Exist for Light, which is kind of referring to my passion for physics. That one was, it's kind of a global album because it was recorded while I was on tour, I think in 2019 in March in the UK with Shahbaz Hussain, who's a wonderful tabla player there. And it was actually released by Worlds Within Worlds Records, which is based in Sydney, Australia. So we really kind of straddled the globe with that one.
Right.
And I don't have immediate plans to make another album.
Okay.
I'm sure I will do one at some point in the next year or two. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I do have to mention, I just recorded an album last November with
Okay.
a jazz collaboration that I'm doing with the amazing Reza Bassi. He's a fantastic guitar player, and we're really doing some groundbreaking stuff, combining jazz and sitar in some ways that have never been done before. And the music is so fascinating, and it sounds amazing. We have our first tour actually coming up late May, right after this concert at the Surrey Art Center, which is also going to be just so much fun.
Okay, great. So it's a soul enriching experience to listen to you. And I have a small message from you which you want to give to the community, especially in the lower mainland, where in Surrey you are performing on May the 13th. So let's listen to this and then we'll come back to you and continue with the talk.
Namaskar. My name is Josh Feinberg. I'm very pleased to invite you all to a very special concert I'll be giving on May 13th in Surrey, Canada, with the very talented young Vivek Pandya on tabla. This is going to be a candlelit concert, so there'll be candles all over the stage. We'll be bathed in candlelight. And what a beautiful way to present the healing vibrations of Indian classical music. This music was created eons ago to match the vibrations of the times of day and seasons inside living bodies, both humans and animals, and plants as well. And what better way to experience that than to be bathed in candlelight as well. So please come join us. It will be May 13th at Surrey Civic Theatre.
So wonderful. So you're going to be in the city of Surrey, which is a hub of the Indian population here in Canada, on May the 13th, which is a Friday. So as you mentioned, it's going to be a special event. Apart from what you have, it's an open invitation for everyone. Anything else you would like to add to this particular concert?
Yeah, I'm just so happy to be performing in Surrey again after many years, And this concert is going to feature the very young and talented Vivek Pandya, who's very young prodigy of tabla. Very happy to be introducing him to the world and to the community here. This concert was organized with the help and consultation of Nina Buddev, who's a wonderful supporter and collaborator for the arts. She herself is a yogi and a painter, and yeah, please come. It's going to be a wonderful event. We'd love to have you there, and bathe yourself in candlelight and enjoy this music with us.
Wonderful. And before I let you go, one last thing is you're also associated with an organization called Jal Sagar, and over there you're the executive director. So what are you doing in this organization? And also, all music is good, but especially when we see today the youngsters, they're more crazy for the Western music, and they are not wanting to come towards the Indian classical music. What would be your message to them? So both these questions, and then we'll finish off with the program.
So Jal Sagar is a nonprofit organization I started some years ago. It's been on hiatus during the pandemic, but I hope that we can come back soon. We organize concerts and workshops, both presenting to the larger community and also to students. I teach through Jal Sagar, and we've had amazing concerts from some of the greatest musicians in the world, presented in a Baitak format. We'll be changing formats moving forward, so stay tuned for that. And as for my message for the continuation of this music with the youngsters, I think music, it's just like any language that you speak. In the beginning, it takes a bunch of effort until you can converse easily, and then it becomes fun. But there's a point that you have to get past before you have some ability on the instrument. All music is great. Western music is great. Indian music is great. And I just hope that that we can support this music through performances, through workshops, both parents, state organizations, art centers, and present high quality performers to the audience to engage them, because nothing motivates someone to learn this music, especially youngsters, like going to a concert and seeing a master perform it live. That's really what gets the fire going.
Absolutely. Great. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much. Best wishes, and we are sure that people will come in large numbers and enjoy the wonderful performance which we are going to give in Surrey on May the 13th. And of course, tickets are available at tickets.surrey.ca, or you can even call at 604-501-5566. Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਜੋਸ਼ ਫਾਈਨਬਰਗ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ 13 ਮਈ ਨੂੰ ਜੋ ਇਹ ਪਰਫਾਰਮੈਂਸ ਕਰਨ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹਾ ਸੱਦਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਹਿੰਦੁਸਤਾਨੀ ਕਲਾਸੀਕਲ ਮਿਊਜ਼ਿਕ ਦਾ, ਉਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜੋ ਸਿਤਾਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵਜਾਈ ਉਹ ਸੁਣ ਵੀ ਲਈ। ਪਰ 13 ਮਈ ਨੂੰ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ tickets.surrey.ca 'ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604-501-5566। ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਸਮਾਪਤੀ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਥ ਹੋ ਕਰਦਾ ਮੰਡੇ ਟੂ ਫਰਾਈਡੇ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ 6 ਵਜੇ ਪੈਸੀਫਿਕ ਸਟੈਂਡਰਡ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਾਬਿਕ। ਇਫ ਯੂ ਆਲਸੋ ਵਾਂਟ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਅ ਪਾਰਟ ਆਫ ਦਿਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ, ਯੂ ਕੈਨ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਮੀ ਐਟ 604-603-7555, or you can email me at harpreetsingh@gmail.com. ਇੱਥੇ ਲੈਣ ਆ ਗਿਆ, ਫਿਰ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। Have a safe evening, stay healthy and enjoy yourself. And of course, don't forget to come on May the 13th at Surrey Centre, where you'll enjoy this wonderful performance of Josh Feinberg.